The Shamrock Tap wasn't much, but it was home. Nestled on a quiet Southie street, the tiny bar had been pouring Guinness and Jameson for 3 generations. The green-painted walls were faded, the floor sticky, and the dartboard in the corner was missing the number 12, but the regulars wouldn't have it any other way. On any given night, the place belonged to the locals, plumbers, dock workers, and the occasional cop on his night off. But St. Patrick's Day was different. Amateurs flooded in, drowning the old haunt in a sea of green shirts, cheap leprechaun hats, and beer-fueled bravado. This year was no exception. By 8 o'clock, the place was packed shoulder to shoulder. The jukebox, usually stuck on the Pogues or Dropkick Murphys, was drowned out by laughter, slurred arguments, and the occasional off-key rendition of Danny Boy. Danny Callahan, the owner's nephew, was behind the bar, slinging pints with a speed that suggested both experience and desperation. That's when it started. It always started the same way. A little too much booze, a little too much pride, and one wrong word. Mikey Flannery had been drinking since noon, a local boy through and through. He'd been hitting the Shamrock since he was 16, sneaking in under the watchful but forgiving eye of old Mr. Callahan. Now in his 30s, Mikey considered himself a fixture of the place, like the tarnished brass footrail at the bar or the framed photo of JFK above the liquor shelf. Tonight, Mikey had been in rare form, spinning wild stories of his high school football days and how he could have gone pro if it weren't for a bum knee. No one really listened, but Mikey didn't need an audience. He just needed a drink in his hand and someone to nod now and then. Enter Colin O'Shea. Colin wasn't a local. He wasn't even from Boston. He was from Worcester, which might as well have been another planet as far as Mikey was concerned. Worse, Colin had the misfortune of being both taller and louder than Mikey, which meant trouble was brewing from the moment he stepped into the bar. It started as friendly ribbon, Colin teasing Mikey about his football career, Mikey tossing jabs about Worcester being a knockoff Boston. But after a few rounds, the laughter turned to sneers. Colin, emboldened by whiskey, let slip the words that would seal the night's fate. Face it, Flannery, you weren't good enough to go pro, knee or no knee. Silence. The kind of silence that only happens in a bar when everyone knows a fight is about to break out. Mikey set his pint down with exaggerated care. What'd you say? Colin grinned, stupid and confident. You heard me. The first punch came fast. Mikey swung wide, a looping right hook that Colin barely had time to flinch away from. It caught him high on the cheekbone, knocking him back into a group of half-drunk revelers. Beers spilled, tempers flared, and just like that, the whole bar erupted. A chair scraped back hard, a glass shattered. Someone threw a punch at someone else for no reason other than the fact that it was St. Patrick's Day, and chaos had momentum. Danny, still behind the bar, shouted in vain. Knock it off, you idiots. No one listened. Mikey and Colin had locked into a drunken brawl, swinging wildly, knocking over tables, and sending bar stools clattering. Mikey had the advantage of anger, but Colin had reach. He caught Mikey in the nose with a sharp jab, sending him stumbling back against the bar. Blood dripped onto the already stained floor. That should have been the end of it, but then big Tommy Donahue got involved. Tommy was 6'4", built like a brick wall, and most importantly, Mikey's cousin. He didn't ask questions. He just saw his kin bleeding and waded into the fray like a one-man wrecking crew. Colin didn't stand a chance. One meaty fist to the gut sent him doubling over. Another to the jaw put him on the floor. But by then, the fight had spread. A guy in a Celtics jersey caught an elbow and took offense. A group of college kids feeling bold and reckless jumped into the mix. It was a full-on Donnybrook, the kind they'd be talking about for years. Somewhere in the madness, the jukebox was knocked loose, skipping through songs until it landed on Shipping Up to Boston. The irony was lost on no one. Danny, knowing better than to try and break it up, did the only thing he could. He grabbed the baseball bat from behind the bar and slammed it against the counter. Enough! For a second it worked. The noise died down. Fists hovered in the air mid-punch. Someone coughed. Someone else swayed and collapsed onto a table. And that's when the cops walked in. Southie cops had a rule about St. Patty's Day bar fights. Unless someone was bleeding out or a chair was on fire, they gave the crowd a chance to cool off before hauling anyone in. Officer Tierney, a grizzled veteran of the neighborhood, took one look at the scene and sighed. Jesus, Mary, and Joseph, he muttered. Danny, still holding the bat, gave a sheepish shrug. You know how it is, Tierney. Tierney did. He scanned the room, saw no one was seriously hurt, and made a decision. All right, listen up. His voice cut through the haze of booze and adrenaline. You got 30 seconds to shake hands and buy each other a drink, or I start hauling your butts to the station. Mikey, still woozy, wiped blood from his nose and glared at Colin. Colin, rubbing his jaw, glared back. Then, with the slow realization that neither of them wanted to spend the night in a cell, they both exhaled. Mikey extended his hand. You hit like a girl. Colin grinned and took it. So do you. The bar erupted in cheers. Someone ordered another round. The jukebox, as if on cue, switched to whiskey in the jar. Just another St. Patrick's Day in Southie. Thanks for joining us for Fireside Stories. Remember before you leave to like and subscribe, and we'll catch you the next time that we all gather around the fire.